All right, here is 521, and I don't always go through the warm-up before a lesson that I would do for the home video as I would in class, but today I really felt like I wanted to do this warm-up beforehand. I thought it was a good review. It's been a while since we've seen this stuff before I get into today's stuff, because you're going to be bouncing between fractions, decimals, and percents quite a bit. Okay, so what the warm-up is just meant to make sure that you can do that. I would pause this video, I would try all of these on the side, and then come back here and check your answers. Alright, I'm going to go pretty quick through this. Just a reminder that the decimal is in the tenths place, that's the 3/10, so we'll put that fraction as the 3/10. Okay. The percent then is, if you really wanted it per 100, you could either put a 0 at the end and it should be 30%, not 3%, not 3%, okay? The percent, if it's 40%, then that would be 0.40. The better choice would be 0.4, and then that a good answer would be 40 hundredths. A better answer is 4/10, but the best answer is 2/5, and that's the one I would really prefer here. If you have a fraction of 2/10, the decimal is 0.2 in the 2/10, and that percent would be 20%. If I'm looking at the next one, the decimal is 0.03, and that is in the hundredths place, so that means that we will have 3 hundredths, and the percent will be 3. You know, if we look at that, 3% means that would be 3%. Decimal is 0.1, so that would be 10%, and 1/10. And 4% would be 0.04, and 4 hundredths. The better choice would be, 2/50, but the best choice would be 1/25. And down below, you have 6/10, so that's 0.6 or 60%. Okay, hopefully you did okay with that. All right, let's go back here and let's get started on today's lesson. So today's lesson really just kind of kicks off with a question. Mrs. Lehman wants to buy sunglasses that are 70% off, and she has a coupon that's 40% off. Now, if I just stop, right, just ignore this for just a second. In there it says, wow, well, Mrs. Lehman says, well, if I have 70% off and 40% off, then that must mean she gets 100 to 10% off. And what we find out, because she added 70 and 40 together, and what we find out is that's just foolish. That's just not the way stuff works. And so we just had a little fun here with Mrs. Lehman going to buy some sunglasses, right? So what we have is really what it is it's meant to set up for us to talk about percents, right? So what we need is let me read the following part. We know that she will pay 60% of 30%. What is 60% of 30%? Okay, where did that come from? Well, first, if it's 70% off, you are not paying for 70%, you are paying for 30%. Okay, and that's where that comes from. And 40% off means that you will be paying for 60%. So what is 60% of 30%? And that of means times. And that's where this comes right into play, 60% of 30%. And what we're doing today is we're going to practice looking at stuff as problems as decimals, 0.6 and 0.3, and 6/10 and 3/10. But we can also write them as fractions, 6/10 and 3/10. And 6 times 3 is 18, and 10 times 10 is 100. And the product as a decimal is 0.18. So if you have a 70% off and a 40% off, you would be paying for, how would you say this, 18 cents of every dollar. Would be kind of the answer for that. So if you had $100, you'd be paying $18. All right, let's try to play with this a little bit more. All sweaters are 30% off of the original price. 30% off means we're going to pay for 70%. You, being the clever shopper you are, also have a coupon for 20% off any item. That means that you'll be paying for 80% of that. If you buy a sweater, you'll pay 80% of 70%. What is 80% of 70%? All right, so problems as decimals. 0.8, and 0.7. Okay, so problems as fractions. 8/10 times 7/10 is 56 100ths, or 0.56. Okay. Sweet. Jeans at American Schmiegel are 40% off. That means we're going to pay for 60%. And it has a coupon for 30% off, so that means we're going to pay for 70%. What percent would you save if you buy the jeans on sale and use the coupon? Here we go. 0.7 times 0.6. 7/10 times 6/10 is 42 hundredths, and that would be 0.42. All right, let's continue. Now, Dusty wants to multiply 0.1 and 0.04. Multiply these numbers as fractions. All right, let's multiply them as fractions. So the first one is 1/10, and the second one is 4 hundredths. Let's multiply them, and we get 1 times 4, which is 4, and 10 times 100, which is 1,000. Now, so the answer is 4 thousandths. Multiply these numbers as decimals. Well, how do we do that, right? Well, let's go back up here and take a little look here and see if you can pick up the pattern. Notice that on the far left I have the 6 times 3 is 18. How do I know where the decimal goes? Well, notice that there are 2 spots to the right of that decimal place, 2/10. And 2/10 means that we're going to have this answer in the hundredths, or 2 spots. Okay, let's go back here. Notice that 8 times 7 is 56, right? Whoops, 8 times 7 is 56. How do I know where the decimal point goes? Well, notice the 2 spots on the left side, right? The 2/10 spot and 2/10 would make it in the hundredths place. I move it over 2 places. Notice here, 7 times 6 is 42, but I have 1, 2 places to the right of the decimal. 1, 2 places to the right of the decimal. So what we'll do is when we multiply these, we're going to get 0.1 times 0.04. We are going to ignore, just like above, we're going to ignore the decimals for a moment. 4. But what happens is we have to get our correct decimal place, and notice that I have 1, 2, 3 numbers that are to the right of the decimal. So I'm going to go, I'll start here and I'll go over 1, 2, 3 spots right here. And we'll slip in some zeros. I always like a 0 in front of the decimal point. Right? So that's kind of the pattern that we have. Muhammad needs some help multiplying 3.9 and 0.6. Multiply these as fractions. Well, I could multiply this as 3 9/10 times 6/10, but I always like to have improper fractions when I do that. So that will be 39/10 times 6/10, right? 39 times 6, 39 times 6 is 4, 5, 6 times 3 is 18, 18 plus 5 is 23, so that is weird, 234 hundredths, right, which would be 2 34 hundredths, okay. Now, let's see how this shakes up when we do it as decimals. 3.9 times 0.6. Let's multiply. Now, notice we actually did all of the work right here, didn't we? I'm going to try to grab it. Whoops. I didn't even know I could grab that like that. Select all. Let's bring that over right here on the side, right? We're going to get the exact same numbers. It's a matter of putting the right decimal in there. 6 times 9 is 54. 6 times 3 is 18. Plus 5, 23. Now, how many decimal places? I have 1, 2. So I'm going to go over 1, 2. And let's slide that decimal point in there. 2 and 34 hundredths. Man, I got to clean that up, right? There we go. Look at that, 2 and 34 hundredths, just written differently. All right, now it says let's practice this skill, right? Let's practice this skill. So I want you to pause, try practicing, come back to this. All right. Hopefully you've tried this. I'm going to go very quickly, and we're going to do the exact same thing that we were doing before, right? There's my 12. I have 1, 2 numbers, so I move over 1, 2, and I always slip a 0 in front of there. Hopefully you have the same. 4.312, 4 and 312 thousandths, 0.2. Ignore the decimal places. 4, 2, 6, 8. Now I check, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. 0.624. 8624. Sorry, 1.486 and 0.4. We'll multiply. All right, that's 24. Carry that 2. That's 34. Carry the 3. That's going to be 19. Carry the 1, and that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Let's try this one. 0.7. The beautiful part is it doesn't matter what number is on top or the bottom. Normally we put the biggest number on top. 5 times 7 is 35. Right. Now 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1. That's 1, right? And then we can add those up. 5, 7, 1. And I have, running out of room, but I have 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to have to put that decimal point right there with a 0 in front. And we have 0.4 times 0.8, and we'll multiply. 4 times 8 is 2, carry the 3, 32, 1, 2. Okay. The last part I would mention in this video is it appears in these bottom 5 problems that every time you do this, the decimal is always in front of the numbers, and that is simply not true. That is just a coincidence. Notice the number one, the decimal point in front of the 1, in front of the 1 down there, in front of the 8, in front of the 3, in front of the 5. It is just a coincidence. Notice here, it didn't do that. Notice here, it didn't do that. Okay? So just because that's the case, or when you see that down there, does not mean it's always going to happen that way. Okay, so hopefully you picked up on the pattern, the simple way to start doing decimals, and you can start using that for the future. Have yourself a great night.